Street, Main Street was a community. Main Street was a town within a town.
When you look at the geography, you know, it's almost like crosshairs, okay? Howard Avenue in Main Street.
You know, I'm just so happy that I grew up here where I grew up, a block and a half from Main Street, across the street from a public school.
What makes Main Street so special is family, faith.
You know, you didn't even lock the front doors or anything as you would now.
Oh, boy, I love Main Street. Just walking down Main Street was a joy.
So, yeah, I mean, we walked to Main Street area all the time, rode my bicycle there all the time.
This was Shangri-La.
I remember when Main Street used to be paradise.
Main Street runs south to the Gulf of Mexico and north all the way to Back Bay, Biloxi, approximately 1.5 miles.
So if you go at 4 or 5 blocks east side of Main Street, you've really got the heart of old Biloxi, black and white community.
But the heartbeat of our thriving black community was situated north of the track, just behind the predominantly white business district of Biloxi. It's where we played, prospered, in a historic neighborhood we call Back-A-Town.
When I would cross the track southbound to go to Howard Avenue to shop, it wasn't as comforting as it was in my area of Main Street.
This, Greg called it a Shangri-La, and it was. We had everything we needed here in Biloxi and here on Main Street. We didn't have to go nowhere else for anything.
So it was also, like I said, it was a time of the blues. It was also joyful.
Fun, faith, family, food, free enterprise, and more were interwoven threads of the rich fabric of life on Main Street.
And we all came together as our little community here on Main Street to make something that our children would reflect on when they grew up, that they would have something that they could be proud of by living here on Main Street in Biloxi.
So come with me as we explore the joys and blues of Biloxi's Black Main Street.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the main studios of WLBG, Channel 3, in living color, the sounds of soul.
I don't ever remember growing up in Biloxi without music. Be it music coming from bands on Main Street or coming out of every house from a record player. Every time you walked past a house with the front porch, there was something in the way of music.
Oh boy, there was a record shop. When you walked down the street, you heard the latest record, the 45s, you know.
Here, there was a constant beat like the cadence of a real good blues song. Throughout Main Street, you were hearing everything from the Drifters to the Ink Spots to the Temptations and a whole lot of Little Milton, B.B. King, and Bobby Blue Bland.
I mean, I was somewhat envious of the Main Street clubs because I really wanted to go there and would have been welcome there.
Okay, Main Street was inundated with juke joints. From right here where we are now to the railroad track was no less than about 7 or 8 juke joints.
Jim Crow was bad. This was the beginning of the end of it. And I think the music helped us at least helped the white people get there. And because young whites and young blacks were all listening to the rhythm and blues, mostly from New Orleans, but the whole region. That was the regional music, and that's what we wanted to imitate, at least the white kids.
Main Street Biloxi was a common stop on the chillin' circuit. This Blues Trail marker celebrates the clubs that jam to the blues and jazz that made music history.
People would be coming from the laundry, the cleaners, with the outfits that they were gonna wear. That night, they would be dressed so, because I had older sisters too, you know. And they getting so dressed up like they were going to church.
And the thing I always remember about Main Street, it's the Black Bourbon Street. And the difference between Main Street and Bourbon Street is that the people on Main Street were dressed better.
Several lounges. I mean, there was lounges on both sides of the street. Some of them I did. My favorite ones was the Shalimar, the Blue Note, and the Torch.
Yes, the music was a combination of all genre. You had rhythm and blues, you had soul music, you had dancehall,
down home blues, and then you had jazz. So it encompassed all areas of music. And it was like a melting pot.
Well, yeah, he knew, the Rock and Rebels. That sort of gave the stream Bun Blessy through the schools. When he was in the schools, he thought Bun was a bass player.
And Bum used to come down and do the jam sessions on Sunday at the Torch.
It was inundated with blues up and down this street. Long before rock and roll was a big thing, blues was it.
It wasn't just the blues. Clubs and churches coexisted. It was not unusual to hear Sugar Billy at the Little Apple, while across the street, you heard Onward Christian Soldiers.
People were having their windows up, and the radio would be on, but all were playing gospel music, gospel songs.
During the heyday of the music industry, you had a club over here. That club was the Shalimar. Over here, you had the Paradise Gardens. And directly behind the Paradise Gardens was the Club Desire that later on became the Torch.
When you left home and came home to visit Mom, you would have to travel down Main Street before you went to Mom's house. I mean, you would slowly ride down Main Street looking from the left to the right, just cruising. As I said, that was our little Bourbon Street, I guess you could say,
Fats Domino's band leader was Dave Bartholomew, great orchestra man, great musician. And we white kids in high school would hire his band to come over and play for proms and balls and things. And we got to know him real well. I mean, he came all through the 50s. My brother, even the older kids did it in the early 50s and the late 50s.
James Brown came to the stadium here in Biloxi when I was in high school.
And the corner of the back of that house was right there, right up under the Paradise Garden. So I went to bed on Al Green. When I woke up, I would come out the back door and go up under pecan trees. And I go to those pecan trees and go and reach up at the limbs and pick up the limbs and break them off and bring them down and make me some little drumsticks. Then I'll turn around and go in the back door and go steal my grandmother's pots and pans while she's being a domestic maid and not home. And then I'll come back out and I'll practice what I heard. That's where it all began.
A lot of my friends were from the quote-unquote big cities, Chicago, New York, all this kind of stuff. Man, your town ain't got nothing on my hometown. Your hometown ain't got nothing on mine. You come on, go home with me. And I would always time it to get into Biloxi about 11 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night and go to Main Street, in particular the Blue Note. And it would be people in there just like that. And it got so good, and when I was in college, that I had to put names in the hat to see who was gonna ride home with me.
I think it's through the music that many of us who experienced the blues were able to tolerate it. Whenever there was a problem or you suffered, you whistled while you worked, you hummed a spiritual, or if you had a guitar, you hit a few strings. It was always a melodious environment for a backdrop that in some cases was hostile, but it was always home.
Love, 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 make me do foolish things.
It's October 1962. I'm 9 years old and I'm riding my bicycle down Nixon Street. That's a couple of blocks from bustling Main Street. I didn't know it then, but civil rights leaders like Dr. Gilbert Mason Sr. were being targeted statewide because of James Meredith's admission to Ole Miss. Riding my bike was one of the joys of East Biloxi in those days. Seeing the firebombed building gave me the blues. I wasn't afraid that day or any other. You know, faith, family had got me through. You know, the folks on Main Street always counted on faith and family.
I felt the calling, the need, and felt God's calling upon me. I certainly ran from it because I did not want to enter into the ministry because my grandfather was in the ministry. But the Lord had other plans.
My family as a whole, my kids and wife, they're all Catholic. And they grew up right in our Mother Sorrow's Catholic Church. I grew up right here on this church right here, which is First Missionary Baptist Church, Eric Dickey. My grandfather was a deacon, my grandmother was Holy Mother, whatever y'all call it in the Baptist church, and I'm still a member.
Like I was saying, and then our pastor used to be Reverend E.H. Potter, and he had New Bethel when we were little children, and that church is 114 years old. So we've grown up in the church. My parents grew up in that church. Their parents grew up in that church.
Let's say that one more time. Say, holy is the Lamb.
That wouldn't, all these churches in the community, they used to mean something when I was a kid. We used to stop when we used to go by the church, and we'd take our hat off. If it was a Catholic church, which was down the street, we'd stop and do this.
Rock and Rebels would play on Saturday nights at Sisphonian Lodge until early morning, and then, you know, we'd go get a bite to eat at Hugo's Pizza House. So, but we're all Catholic, so to go to Mass the next day, we would look for the latest Mass of the day, which was at our Mother of Sorrows church on Division Street, which was essentially the black church, but it had always been integrated. We were welcome. We'd go there. We loved going there. The music was better than most Catholic churches.
Dr. Mason was a member of First Baptist. His wife Natalie was also a member. Gilbert Jr. was brought up in First Baptist. Everything happened in First Baptist. If there was a meeting to be held, if it wasn't held at New Bethel, it was held at First Baptist. It was the foundation of the community.
It would be nowhere without the black church, in the words of Mississippi-born Oprah Winfrey. Churches were, and still are, the cultural hubs of Main Street. The resilient Main Street residents believe faith made the impossible possible.
And that faith took me a long way, you know. Some things that I thought were impossible, they became possible because I believed, I prayed.
Father's legacy to me was to love God, to treat everybody right. Because one thing he always told me, son, you can't live in this world by yourself, and what you do to other people reflects on you. But keep God first.
I've been in church all my life, and if I did not have that foundation and know what I know at my age, I could not have made it.
It wasn't me, it was God. It's the gift that he put into me and enabled me to learn.
So faith plays a major, major role in my life because I do not believe that I would be where I am today if it wasn't first for Abby and Roselle Horn planting that seed of spirituality in me and then helping me to develop it.
You know there is a God somewhere, and eventually things are going to come through for you.
Faith was more than church in the Main Street community. Benevolent organizations like the Masons, the Eastern Star, the Elks, all were born out of the church. They played a significant role in contributing to the well-being of all of Main Street. But the enduring gift that always swept the blues away was family.
I come here often to the Pauper's Graveyard in the Biloxi Cemetery. I come to honor my grandfather, Cornelius Kemp Sr. I called him Boot. Even though I didn't know him very well, he gave me so much. A strong work ethic, and the light of hope.
I won my first election by, I think, 3 or 4 votes and served 4 years. And of course, he passed in the midst of that first term. And so every term thereafter, I dedicated my work in civic government to my grandfather.
The institution that God created was the family, and that was the basis for me for life.
Family, yeah, family was the essence of Main Street. But family meant more than just mom, dad, and sister, brother, and grandparents. Family included reverence and respect and responsibility for others.
The kind of takeaway from my growing up in this community here had to do with reverence for elders and for one another.
You got to understand, my father being blind for all those years, and it was my job to be his eyes, to do everything, and to dress him, to make sure he looked his best.
Family and friends, everybody took care of everybody. If it was elderly people in the neighborhood, my mother would go and take their blood pressures and do things for them that a nurse would do that would charge money.
When we were kids, if we were hungry, we can go to anybody's house and get something to eat and didn't have to even knock on their door.
If we were poor, we did not know it. I never went without a meal. I never slept outside like I see some people now.
I can remember easily riding my bike up and down the streets and going different places. And the first thing an adult will say, your parents know where you are? And that was one of my biggest one of my biggest fail. Yeah, she know where I'm at. They would go and pick up the phone and call her. Do you know where your grandson is? No, where is he? He way over here. And they come out and ask me, you better get home. Your parents don't know where you are. But that's the sort of freedom that I had, and I enjoyed it.
Those values that I inherited from my grandparents, Booker and Macy Gatlin, I don't know if I would have been the person I am today without that and this community giving me what they gave me.
But we had good camaraderie among the children and the families, because your family was like my family. If I did something wrong, I was gonna get whipped in and get home and get another one, So that's the way it was.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, since I laid my...
If you ever heard or saw the movie Soul Food, that's the kind of food that we really had back in the day. We'd have macaroni and cheese, fried chicken, barbecue ribs, turkey, collard greens.
And my mom used to always say everybody came to her house because they knew we had a large family and we were gonna have something to eat.
Fried chicken, that was just a staple in the home. Fried chicken, fried pork chops. Maybe that's the little weight on me now, I don't know.
We had field peas. We would sit and shuck peas with my grandmother and wouldn't even mind doing it because we knew the end result, they were gonna be great.
And I remember we had a menu. We had a menu for each day of the week. And just as sure as the day went by, we knew exactly what we were gonna have to eat.
And the older ladies, you had fish fries and chicken fries, and you can get a chicken dinner for 50 cents.
I remember when I first met my wife-to-be, I took her out to date, and at the restaurant across the street over here, and on the menu was scallops, She was from Louisiana, Bogalusa area, Franklin area, and she had not heard of scallops before. I say that to say that our culture was complete. We had chitterlings and we had scallops, if you will,
Barks, beverages, or we really call them cold drinks back then. They were so delightful. It was a long time before I knew that they were brewed here in Biloxi, right around the corner there. And the variety of flavors, there was no substitutes, no artificial flavoring. It was the real McCoy.
On Friday and Saturday nights, the most popular foods that the majority of people ate were barbecue ribs, barbecue chicken, fried fish.
Boy, you smell that? That's the aroma coming from every house, every restaurant. When you came to Main Street, I want you to know you were blessed with some of the best food. Like Jerry Owens' daddy, Lee Owens, who's right over there, Kitty Cat Barbecue. You could not imagine the kind of food that you'd have in there. That's what you get when you came back to town. Real food. We got down.
He loved people, he loved to talk, meet people, and he loved to cook for people. He loved to feed.
But we got our ground mullets and come out here, go catch them, come out here and cook them right in front of the kitty cat. I don't know if you remember the kitty cat. They would allow us to and Miss Inez would come down there and run us off the street because we didn't have license.
Oh my goodness, Friday night, you had to have fish or something was wrong with the family. I think ground mullet, they call it Biloxi bacon. I don't know if you heard of that before.
Often, my grandfather would carry me to the Kitty Cat restaurant. Kitty Cat restaurant had the most famous chili dogs and fried fish between, fried ground mullet in between two pieces of bread with potato salad on the side. That was a class, and not to mention the hot sauce on top of that. Of course, I was too small to handle the hot sauce, but I mostly wanted the chili dog because they wrapped it up in that fine wrapping paper.
Greens were always popular. Collards, turnips, very popular, almost on every day.
Regrettably, when I went in the military, one of the biggest problems I had was, you're from Mississippi, you know, how much cotton did you pick, you know? And for the cotton I really saw when I went to Valley State, the cotton fields up there, you know, our cotton fields were shrimp and oysters, if you will.
Down here, Main Street, Biloxi, we didn't have cotton fields, and I never picked any cotton, and I never even seen cotton, but I peeled some shrimp. And I'm gonna tell you, down here, we better than the white folks in Chicago.
Shrimp and gumbo. Oh, you were with Queen Elizabeth if you had that. You were at Buckingham Palace eating at the table with the Queen.
We used to go to Bob's down there, and Bob and Mary used to give us bones. Remember? They get big bone, they cut meat up, and they would give people
and lamb
food.
is right here.
And lamb is right there, but they would give kids. We wasn't begging. No. They would just give it to people from throwing away. And we used to put them in a fish net, and we go in the back bay and put the tie the string around the bones and catch a bag of crabs, and we'd bring the crabs back, and the old ladies would cook gumbo.
My dad and I used to go fishing on the old railroad bridge in East Biloxi. And we'd go there because it was easy to chum the barnacles off and catch sheephead. And so we'd have so much, you know, fresh seafood then we couldn't eat it all at one meal. So I would go on my bicycle to Main Street and sell sheephead. And I'd go in, this is daytime now, and I'd go in some of the clubs there that were bars and you know, sell a string of sheephead, a long string of sheephead for 25 cents, which was a lot of money to me.
And we should ride turtles, sea turtles, all day. My grandmother would keep a cauldron hot, and we'd ride the turtle until it got tired, and we'd ride the turtle to the pot and boil and take the shells, and Grandma would make a turtle soup out of it.
If you ate turtle soup, then you could live a long time.
And the turtle actually didn't live that long after we found it.
When we found out about that, he didn't live that long.
Yeah, of course not.
Someone near you found out that there was no food in your home. a neighbor was going to see to it that you would get food.
Keesler would let their airmen come to our church on Sunday, and for some reason, I think they let word of mouth, and they would come to my grandmother's house and eat dinner every Sunday after church. It was all types of airmen. I thought I wanted a boyfriend for an airman because there was so many of them.
When we were kids, if we were hungry, we can go to anybody's house and get something to eat and didn't have to even knock on their door.
This cat here ate at my house almost more than I did. I'm telling you.
His mom is a great cook.
She was a great woman too, though.
You know, when you came to Main Street, you knew you were gonna get some good soul food. I'm talking about cooks who didn't have much, but whatever they had, they made do with what they had. More importantly, every bite you took, you knew that they put their heart in it.
I will to this day, and I will do it to the day I die, that I do not regret graduating from a segregated school.
My family also instilled in me the value of an education. The value of an education. I had perfect attendance for my entire high school career. I never missed a day in school. That was not an option. So I learned quick that doing the right thing was the best thing to do, because I didn't like getting my butt whipped.
The people, they say a lot of things about, well, you had raggedy books. I didn't have a raggedy book. They say that you didn't get a good education. I would put my education up against anybody's.
Education was a key in my family. My father, nor my mother, Abby, nor Roselle Horn, had a high school education, but they wanted me to succeed.
Education was key to me because my mother, she drove it home. My mother finished school in the 8th grade, but at 17, she took the civil service test and worked out at Keesler, and she got a civil service job, and at 18, she became an active duty Air Force airman.
We were told that you could go anywhere in the world that you want to go with an education. That way, you know what to do when you went anywhere. My sisters have master's degrees, some nurses. My mother was a nurse. I have my daughter has her master's degree. She's getting ready to get a PhD. So education was stressed by my grandparents to my parents, stressed to us, and now I'm stressing it to my children, and they're stressing it to their children.
The nucleus heart center of our communities, as I indicated earlier, was church and school.
I was one of the few debutantes that they had in Mississippi.
Come on.
It was the first year they had debutantes.
When I ventured to Jackson State, I had to, as an English education major, I had to take Spanish for 2 years. And there were some students in there that never had a foreign language in their high school days, you know? So I felt blessed that we had all the many courses that we had and those teachers that inspired us.
I got a better education. I learned more in high school than I learned in college. So I'm saying that happened here.
We had a host of teachers that really, really cared. We had principals that would act just like your mama and your dad. And so we learned a lot of things from them.
And at that time, they were having oratorical contests and this, that, and the other, and they were giving small scholarships, and I entered everything I could. And I was fortunate enough to get 2 or 3 small scholarships. And with me working, I think I worked every day for 3 months without a day off, saving my money to go to school. So I was the first person in my family that had gone to college and graduated. Since that time, I can say I've had other brothers and sisters who've come behind me. But I was so pleased to be able to go there and with the determination to do what I had to do and finish.
Able to get a scholarship to Jackson State in music, and had 3 other scholarships. I chose the one in music and went to J State. Freshman year, ended up playing at the New York World's Fair.
I completed high school at 16, but I was fortunate. I went on and completed my degree at Alcorn, got my master's. I then ended up in California as a school administrator. And so all that basic background that I got here in Biloxi allowed me to be where I am today.
And so as far as my childhood goes, I would be walking down Main Street to the Greyhound bus station on Saturdays to catch the bus to go to New Orleans to take private lessons for voice. And so I followed that path, and that all started on Main Street, Biloxi.
So just imagine you've got blues going, and church choir singing, and everybody's all dressed up on Main Street. And we get in front of the Nichols house. Now, the irony of all of this is that Miss Nichols is the principal. Time and time again, we as students would avoid coming past this house. But we understood that Miss Nichols was a symbol of our academic achievement. We did not, for once, hesitate to be high achievers, even on a Saturday night.
Nothing has been done to bring back the history of this house. This family is the family that made it possible for me to go to school, and people before me to go to school, and people after me to go to school, because of their love for education and educating our race.
Now, we were always competitive in academics and, of course, sports. Winning the spelling bee was important, but we also wanted to win the game. Disappointing our families and mentors and coaches, well, I tell you, that was not an option.
When I first started coaching, I did not get paid for it, so it had to be a love for the game and to love the kids.
As an athlete, my grandparents did not miss a game, whether it was here in Biloxi or out of town. They was the first person I saw in the gym or at the football game when we had one. I don't care where it was, they was there. I played hurt on the football field. My grandmother jumped the bleachers and come out on the field to see, check on her baby.
Because we couldn't go to the beach to swim, but we did have our own swimming pool, which is very unique on the Gulf Coast, almost anywhere, for black community to have a swimming pool right behind our school, as a matter of fact.
And when I wanted my girl to become better, when my girls made a mistake, I would tell them what kind of mistake they made, what they have to do in order to rectify this. You can't get it all back at one time. You play the entire game and it will come to you. I think sports brought us together. I played basketball as a starter, and he played basketball from the bench. From the bench.
I didn't like basketball.
It was baseball that brought everyone from everywhere to Main Street. Thanks to Roselle Horn and the Biloxi Dodgers, man, I loved to watch my Uncle JJ play center field.
We, as being a member of the Biloxi Dodgers, we had to give something back to the kids in the community, and this was a way of doing it. Letting them see, hey, you can make it if you put the time in and the effort, and you can go as much further than we can, because times are changing every day. So it was great. I enjoyed it. I would never, it's something that I will hold for the rest of my life till the day I die.
It was a minor baseball league, later became part of the Negro League. The first one I should say, in the state of Mississippi.
We were one of the best
black team, and we had all of those. Most of these guys winds up, when I started, half of them was black and half of them was white.
Because on Sundays, the families would get out of church and they could not wait to get on Lee Street, to go to the Lee Street Diamond for the Biloxi Dodgers to play. That was like the highlight of the season, of the summer, to be able to go to a Biloxi Dodgers baseball game at Lee Street Park.
We had Freddie Wright was a pitcher, went to the Atlanta Braves. And we had Jeffrey Kennan, a left-hand pitcher that also went to the Atlanta Braves. So
there was a white player that played with my father's team, the Biloxi Dodgers. His name was Dick Lefty O'Neill, and he even wrote a book about his experience playing on a Negro league. The name of the book is Dreaming of the Majors, Living in the Bush. And I would like to just read just a little bit out of the book, just to tell you about his experience and how he enjoyed the game of baseball with the Biloxi Dodgers. We felt very privileged to have been chosen to be a part of the rich history of the Black League. Mr. Horn saw talent and he didn't worry about color. I will forever be grateful to Mr. Horn, the barber who was willing to break the color barrier and allow us to play with his team. A part of me will always be at Main Street, Biloxi.
Yeah, I moved my business 4 times, and each time I was moving on up, like the Jeffersons. And I said one day that I would be able to get my own place.
The magic here was through the struggle that they were going through that time period of life.
And here I am, 60 years later, still on the move.
The Black community had to struggle for everything that they had, be it owning a business, be it owning a home.
We've heard it all before. One of the most famous men in history said it. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But you must keep moving forward. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Oh yeah, Tyrone's was definitely the happening place because Tyrone was the center of all the barbers' world. If you were a barber back in that era, you wanted to go cut with Tyrone, it was a privilege. So he mentored myself and hundreds of other kids from East Biloxi.
And all the young people my age were going to Mr. Tyrone. I kept saying, Daddy, I want to go. But I want you to get in and I want you to get out. If you went to Tyrone, you're going to be there all day long.
And I used to have the kids to sweep up for me. And I always had a little snacks. And they knew if they sweep up from it, they're going to get a snack.
Now, it wasn't always so easy for entrepreneurs back of town like Mr. Tyrone Burton, but they kept the dream alive.
And here I am, I have lived the dream that I dreamed about.
You name the entity or business, we had it. And everything was within walking distance.
I mean, we were talking mostly about the restaurants that he ran at one time. But also, he and I started a construction company at one time. The only thing I knew was to paint. I knew how to paint. And he did too. But we would hire people that were carpenters, that could do the other jobs, and we would get those jobs. And, you know, we did pretty well at times.
I worked a lot with my grandfather, Mr. Booker, in his lawn care service. He was a hog farmer. We had to pick up the slop the hogs, come back home, bathe, get dressed, and go to school. In the evening, after school was out, come back home, change clothes, get on the back of the truck, go get dropped off at somebody's yard and cut yards.
Mr. Kemp was also a master mechanic, got his education at Perkiston in 1965. So when he got the education, he got the building, he opened the business, so you had a taxi stand, his sons worked on cars with the Gines family, and he also sold kerosene because most of the homes ran off kerosene back in the day.
My father, Charles Smith, was an entrepreneur on Main Street. He, along with several other entrepreneurs, opened nightclubs on Main Street. He built his nightclub brick by brick.
And there was a grocery store, there was a white grocery store next to the black Rum Boogie. So, I mean, it was, in that sense, it was a more, economically, a more integrated community.
We live together, you know, and our future's together. And business is business too. So, you know, it just made no sense to do those kinds of things that were, you know, the perception. I don't know where it is everywhere else in the world, but I have a little good feeling about Biloxi.
Now, there were three major employers of Main Street in those days: the seafood industry, education, and Keesler Air Force Base, which provided a major economic boon to Biloxi, and still does.
My dad built a little duplex himself in our backyard and had, at one time, 4 Keesler families living there.
But the airmen had to be back at a certain time. Now, to get back on base, they had to have transportation. That's where my grandfather came in at, Cornelius B. Kemp, Kemp Cab, the city's first ever African-American cab service.
The military was leaders among civil rights because they were integrated by direction of the President of the United States to defend our country, which they did. And so even during the 50s and the 60s, before we had complete integration, that was a shining example of America doing the right thing.
Yet, the Main Street spirit of yesterday still thrives today. The juke joints may be gone, but the music plays on in the hearts of those who once lived here and those who remain here.
So what we have in the works now, in collaboration with a few other groups, we're trying to open up a culinary school to train people from the area to be cooks.
The revitalization of East Biloxi is going to take a collective effort.
Most of my political career has been trying to recover that magical Biloxi that has been lost. And I'm not alone in that. There's a hope for that. There's a desire for that. Is it possible? Yes. Will it be exactly the same? No.
Back in the 50s, it just showed the generations of their children what could be. You can have this if you have that fortitude. You can have this if you have that discipline. You can have this and much, much more. Don't just rely on mom and dad. You know, we've worked hard and we've sent you off to college. Come home. Come home and make a contribution to your community.
The vision, the perseverance, and the hope for a newer and better East Biloxi Main Street will always be the promise for a 21st century Bacatown.
Nothing in life is easy. You have to earn and be willing to pursue your dreams, and all things are possible. Never let anyone tell you that you can't do what you want to do, because anything is possible, but you've got to believe.
you.